Hello everyone, thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to homebrew pretty much off the cuff a Leshy from The Witcher. I got this idea from one of my players on Discord, and so yeah, I'm opening up a couple of different wikis, one on mythology and one on The Witcher and the game lore and stuff. So yeah, this might take a minute, so maybe grab a snack and grab something to drink and be ready to sort of chill out and hang out with me while I homebrew up a creature. And you'll get some. Ooh, this is pretty bouncy. Let's see if I can change this. Okay, it's better. Yeah, so you can homebrew along with me, or just get some idea how my brain works, and maybe get some useful insight, or just see how easy I think it is. That being said, the CR system in 5e is a little wonky for some people, and I only use it as sort of a loose gauge anyhow. And some of the verbiage that is used in the 5e sources is real specific, and so I may not get my wording perfectly or anything like that. I'm also using a website that I'm not super familiar with, and yeah, you guys can feel free to comment and let me know what you know about these, about some of the tech I'm using. I'm using open broadcast software for the first time for this setup, and I'm going to try to write some stuff on the screen and share the stat block generator that I'm using and all that fun stuff. And by the end of this, we'll have a Leshy that you can use in your campaign or your module. You can throw it in, and it should be a pretty good fight, pretty solid fight, particularly if the Leshy has starts out and is able to prepare for the fight or catches the party off guard. Yeah. So, oh yeah. Again, thanks for joining me. If you like like my content, please click the like video on the video. Goodness. And if you want to see more of it, subscribe, hit the little notification bell thingy, all that mess. Anyway, that being said, thank you for being here. And yeah, so I wanted to talk a little bit about the different lores, right? The real world mythology and the game world mythology. So in the real world, the Leshy comes from Slavic folklore, and it sort of spread out and moved to a bunch of different areas, so like Poland and Russia, and I'm not a history major, and I haven't studied the Slav, so forgive my ignorance. But because of this sort of spreading out, you've got some different depictions of the Leshy, but in general, it was a tallish humanoid that is found in forests, often will lead travelers astray if they follow it. It seems to be, it can sort of communicate and call creatures of the forest. And they're basically a fey creature. They play tricks. They've been known to be quarrelsome with each other, or with humans if the humans are sort of like not have offended them. Perhaps hunting during a festival or something like this, or disrespecting the creatures and life forms in a forest, because the Leshy is generally like a forest protector, a forest spirit. In the mythology, they're shapeshifters, so they can take any form. They can look like anything. They can look like anyone. They can mimic different voices, and let's see. Oh, they can shrink. They can grow and shrink. So let me pull myself back here. Ooh, shrinking. Oh, got some words started. We'll just leave that for now. But yeah, let's take a look at the folkloric Leshy here. And some of you might look at it and, oh, it looks kind of like a Sasquatch or a Yeti or a Wendigo. Well, certainly, it shares a lot of there's a lot of overlap between the Leshy and some other mythological creatures found around the world. So it's really, really cool. It's one of those bits of overlap. But I really love this art too. It's really evocative. It looks like something painted. Someone painted it a long time ago based on some imagery, based on their interactions with it. And of course, you can find this on Wikipedia. This piece of art. Now, in the video game, the Leshy is, well, in the movie, the Leshy looks more like a big evil treant. In the game, it looks like a creature that's part plant, part humanoid. Of course, here's a game depiction. Obviously, it has sort of humanoid legs, humanoid-ish body and hands, although it's got long claws, and you can see that it's got this antler rack, and it's hooded, and that's really great. In the TV show, I think I like that depiction better. It looks like a massive treant, and it has control over all of its limbs and roots, and it can lash out, grab people, spear them. It can also shove them underground and bring them up to attack creatures. I haven't played the game yet. I have it, but I have not played it yet. So I honestly don't know a whole lot about it. I figured I would just jump in with some of the mechanics I'm familiar with and read a little bit of this lore. So also in the video game, in the video game, the Leshy is able to call wolves and crows to come fight for it, or it can maybe perhaps see through their eyes, and they have sway over some of the darker creatures in the forest. While in the mythological version, it's sort of all creatures, and they're not really differentiated. But similar to other fae, they would take children, they might kidnap someone, they might trick them into perhaps some sort of agreement. They're known to be great gamblers, so they can also be tricked into agreements. However, you don't want to be, they're fae, so you still have to be careful how you trick them, because they may not accept it, and they may accuse you of being a poor sport. And you never want a fae to accuse you of being a poor sport. That is, that's a bad deal. That's a bad time. I say a lot. Anyway, but yeah, you can open up the Wikipedia, just Leshy, Leshy, and there's a bunch of different entries, and it's really, really interesting. So I think what we should do is sort of make a fusion between the two. I like this idea that, oh goodness. No. Bear with me for just a moment. Okay, here we go. Yeah, I like the idea that they have a true form, and their true form is large. And tree-like. I'm hoping everyone can see this fairly well. See if I can make it a little bit bigger. Oh, I definitely need a new keyboard, you all. I like the idea that it can polymorph and cast reduce, or reduce and enlarge, that it can mimic. I like the idea that it can communicate with animals in its area and summon woodland beings. And we might even give it the ability to choose creature. I like the idea that this is a pretty intense fight. It's not just a goblin. This is something you're hopefully it doesn't surprise you. Hopefully you're ready to encounter it, and you're both prepared in terms of your power level and your character level, and in terms of the equipment and the tactics you're bringing to it. So I think we want this to be a really good fight, as it is an intense moment in the show. I don't know about the books or the video game. From what I've read and videos I've watched about the video game, it looks pretty intense, though. Particularly hard if you don't know how to fight it. So we'll sort of let the tactics necessary to beat it be reflected in just sort of how potent the creature is. Let's see, what else do we have here? I like that it's a gambler and trickster. I like that It has its fey code and sensibilities, we'll call them. Since it's fey, we'll give it, it's immune to sleep, charm, but since it also has this dark aspect, we're taking, a bit from the game and a lot of folklores. It has a pretty dark aspect. Uh-oh. To leap, immune to leap, immune to sleep, charm. So we'll call it, we'll be immune to fear, and because it is a plant, mostly anyway, it's immune to exhaustion. Let's see here. I think it should be resistant to bludgeoning. Is my keyboard working? No. Working? Is my keyboard working? Goodness, it is not working. And yeah, piercing, slashing, bludgeoning, and poison. Let's see if I can clean this up some. Let me make a little of this a little bit, clean up some of this dead space. We're not quite ready for the stat generator yet, so we'll just keep looking at, at some of the abilities that we want to give it. Since it has that ranged attack, we'll give it 10-foot reach. I think if it has that reach for its standard attack, that we can give it an area attack with 20-foot reach. That'll reflect the area attack that it has, and we'll let that do damage and grapple. That's not my keyboard. That's just me always mistyping those words. All right, I think this is coming along pretty well. Let's get this fella out of the way here. Yeah, it's alright. It's a big blob of purple on your screen, but purple's good for the brain. Let's see, what else do we want to give it? Well, if it's large in its true form, we'll say, okay, it has a 40-foot of movement. And again, we'll go to the stat block here in a minute. I just think it's nice to kind of just make notes as we go and have everything listed out on paper. And we may not use everything to create the creature. And then again, we might. Let's see, what else do we have? So far we've got, its true form is large and tree-like. It can polymorph, reduce, enlarge, and mimic. It can communicate with animals, summon woodland being, creatures of its choice. It is a gambler, a trickster. It has a fey code and sensibilities. It is immune to charm, sleep, fear, and exhaustion. It's resistant to bludgeoning, piercing, slashing, and poison. Yeah. Perhaps, silver. It needs a silver weapon. Where is my... Pardon me, I'm still getting used to OBS, so... And as far as, damage reduction, I really I don't know if other GMs interpret the 5e rules like this, but ever since 3rd edition, I've combined multiple parameters for damage reduction to overcome damage reduction. So where you might need a silver weapon and it might need to be +1 or +2 even to get through their damage reduction. And so that way you can kind of tier some of your creatures, and you can keep certain things challenging. You know, if we add some granulation to some of the rules here and there. And I think that's a really simple way to do it. So we'll say it needs it to be a +1 silver to overcome the damage reduction. I don't have to write it all out. You all are with me and you know what I mean. All right, let's go back over here. I'm moving back over to the Wikipedia tab, and I'm just going to read through this and see if there's anything else that we really like. I've also got a notepad in front of me that I've been making notes on. I don't see a whole lot from either that I don't have notes on, so let me go back over here to the notes that I've pinned down. I think we've got most of them. Oh, I really like the idea, because something I was reading said that one myth was that bad weather and storms that dominated a season were explained by two Leshy having a territorial dispute. So this concept that they're territorial, that they have territories, I think is really interesting. And I think the idea of territories and magical creatures, those two ideas go together really well. I mean, that's sort of what a magic circle is. It's claiming the territory as like sacred, or for this working, or for this magic user. So I really want to use that. So let's also say that the creature has a territory that, and I'm not sure how big it would be. You know, we could say something like, I don't know, a square mile is pretty big, but it's also, for a really powerful fae, it's not that large. So a territory might be, you know, a small forest. Perhaps if it's a great enough forest, there might be two Leshy in there that fight. Perhaps one would be driven off. They are very territorial. And they and let's limit their powers outside of their territory. I think that's a really fun idea, and I think it makes sense. There's no reason to have this somewhere outside of its territory, and it sort of makes it, you know, someone can't just, a really powerful agent can't really employ them in an army or any sort of capacity like that. And even doing experiments on them and such to try to steal their power, you can't. Their power comes from that forest, so you could only learn about that connection, really. You couldn't steal their power. So, has territory, very territorial, powers limited. Pardon my typing, my terrible keyboard, my poor use of OBS, poor experience with it. And what powers do we think should be limited? I think it should keep its resistances, its movement. I essentially think that it's perhaps reduce and enlarge. Area attack. Let's move this down a line. Yeah, let's say, all right, yeah, so reduce and enlarge. How about it's DR, and it's, oh yeah, ability to summon. And its ability to polymorph. And I think that in terms of its polymorph, we will change that. We'll limit that too. We'll say it can polymorph into anything. So let's just split all these up. Into creatures it has encountered. That should cover all the creatures in its forest. That should cover any other strange thing that's passed through it, whether it's a dragon, a young dragon, or a spirit of, no, well, I guess not a spirit, it would have to be a creature, so a living, breathing creature. So yeah, anything that happened to have passed through it. Therefore, humans, other races, things like that. Perhaps other monsters and creatures. Whatever you can think of, whatever makes sense for the forest that it lives in your campaign. So yeah. Polymorph. The creature it has encountered. Okay, I think that limits it pretty well. Let's take a look at our stat block now and see what all we're going to fill in. I'm going to shrink this window down a bit, pop it back up here, where it's still passably visible. Pardon me, let me just move this up here. Look at that, it's almost like I'm learning how to use this program. Sweet. Alright, so the creature's name, well, we know it is the Leshy Lesher. It is, oh, look at that glitching out of me. Large in its true form, right? That's what I decided. It is, oh, Fey. Oh, this is definitely being kind of wonky. We have a proficiency bonus of 4. I think we're going to make it an 8-hit die creature. I think we'll make it hit. Yeah, I think that's what we'll do. Because we want it to be kind of burly, you know. We want it to be an intense fight. Yeah, so I think 8-hit die. And I think it might be a pretty beefy 8-hit die. Again, because that CR is not the best way for me to calculate creatures. It's sort of a guideline if I'm using pre-made creatures and pre-made elements, but when I'm homebrewing, I find that CR is much less useful than looking at the hit points, its attack bonus, and its resistances, and its damage output to determine what sort of challenge it is for the party. Alright, so I'm still a little confused on this RPG Workshop stat block generator and my number of dice. Okay, let's give it an armor class of 15. Hard bark-like armor, or yeah, armory bark really, but not crazy. Something that you could hit, but I think we want to give it some pretty serious hit points. Oh, so it's got an 8-hit die. How many hit die do we want to give it? That's right, 8. That's what we said. I don't really know about that, actually. That doesn't look like enough. 36. That is the average. You could always add more. But since a lot of us go by averages anyhow, let's up it. There we go. I think that's good. 11. That way we can really beef it up if we want to. Or you can use the average or roll it out and randomize it. Not sure it's going to have much of a swim speed or a fly speed, but we'll give it that base speed of 40 feet because it's large. It has lots of vine-like appendages to help it move, whether it's pulling itself through the forest by grabbing tree limbs or if it's using its other vines and roots to locomotivate. That's the way you use that word. I'm not sure what this support is over here. If anybody knows any of this stuff that I have not picked up on, what support exactly means on the RPG Workshop stat block generator, please just let me know. I think strength is going to be pretty strong, so let's give it a 17. I think that's pretty intense. Dexterity, I think we'll leave it at 10. We didn't seem to see it dodge attacks very much. Or really react at all, just sort of attacked until it got killed. It certainly didn't react very quickly to the creature that destroyed it, but that could be a wisdom thing too. But generally, I'd say its dex should be about a 10. Constitution? Let's give it a 14. Up its hit points a little bit. Ooh, it helps up to 72, huh? Alright, well, let's see what happens if let's bring it back down. There we go. I think that's a lot better. Intelligence. I'm thinking high animal intelligence. So let's go with an 8. So it's definitely got some negatives in that department. Yeah. It's weird. We might drop this one down. Interesting. Intelligence is hanging lower, literally and figuratively, or numerically, than the other stats. Weird. Is it doing that on the... Yeah. Weird. Okay. And wisdom, I'm going to say 13. It's a creature of the forest. It's in contact with everything. It can communicate and kind of hear and knows what's going on in the forest. So I think a 13 makes sense. Charisma, I think again we're going to give that a pretty low score. But I think we're going to balance these out by giving them... let's see here. Yeah, let's look at our text here. I think we should also give them advantage on magic saves. I think it's a magical creature. It's really, really potent. You know, we saw that it was pretty resistant to... Well, I guess we'll watch that fight again. But I think giving it to resistance to maybe a few things like charisma and intelligence saves, so it gets advantage. You know, or yeah. Still figuring out roll. Nope. Figuring out OBS. All right. So yeah, we will give it an advantage on int and ka saves because it's so low, but it shouldn't necessarily be charmed or succumb to illusions very easily. And then of course its advantage on saves is going to be limited to its territory as well. Yeah. Alright, I think that looks good. Alright, switch these back around, put this on top. Down a little bit, clean this up. It looks a little nicer, a little more fun. Yay, yeah. This guy's peeping at you over here. Hey guys, what's happening? How you doing? Blam. I love it. Alright, so I just want to be able to see everything all at once on the same page. Alright, so we've given it ability scores. And given it ability scores, let's move on to properties. Yeah, okay, we're going to give it nature, obviously. I think survival. I think perception. And say deception. And persuasion. Persuasion. Stealth. Right? Sasquatch, Yeti, Bigfoot, tricking people, misleading them, surprising them. That makes sense. We're going to make it immune to exhaustion, charm. What is this? Frightened and unconscious, I guess that's sleep. Immunity. I'm not sure that it's going to be immune to anything. I'm not sure that makes any sense. We didn't see any. So vulnerabilities, fire in the game. And we got resistances. We're going to do, like I said, bludgeoning, piercing, slashing, and poison. That's pretty solid. No immunities. Alright. Moving on. Features. Can speak with animals at will. Summon woodland creatures once before long rest. Alright, there's some features. Actions. No, it's not going to have a longsword, I don't think. Or another longsword. But it will get a 10-foot... I don't know. We'll call it... I guess it gets a slam. Right? Okay. Reach, 10 feet. Target's 1. No, not -1. How'd that work? We'll see, it's going to do 2d6 damage for its slam, which that's, you know, that's pretty serious. So that's good. Alright, and then I think it's also going to get, yeah, we'll give it a stab attack, which is also melee. Also going to be that 10-foot reach. Also going to have a target of 1. It's also going to be 2d6, but this is going to be a piercing, clearly. Okay, this is wonky. I'm sure this does not look good on for y'all. It glitches out like that. Alright, so it's got a slam attack, a pierce attack. We'll say it also has this, yeah, definitely has a ranged attack as well. Call it Spearing Vines. And it's going to be range. It's going to have also 1 target. It's going to have a 30-foot range. I think that makes sense. Yeah. Roots are... Roots are pretty serious. They are long. They are really big. They go quite a ways underground, so I think 30 feet is acceptable. And again, we're going to do 2d6. And then I'm not sure it'll let you actually do it the way I want. We'll just call it an action. So what would we call it when all of it shoots its roots down to the ground, they come up and call it spreading roots. And it is going to up to 4 creatures within a 20-foot radius. 4. Oh yeah, what's its attack? Oh, it already has that set up with its. That's already calculated. Okay, great. So yeah, it's Spreading Roots is going to attack up to 4 creatures within a 20-foot radius of the, oh goodness, the Leshy, doing, how about 2d8 points of damage. Plus 3. Oh, no. That's not the way to word it. Plus 3 points of damage. And each hit initiates a grapple with the target. Man, okay. I need a new keyboard. But I also need this to work. Alright, I'm not sure it's going to have any legendary actions. Let's see what we're missing. Let's look through our list. Oh yeah, reduce enlarge, polymorph. Okay. That should go under features. Polymorph, once per long rest. Mimic creature at will, and reduce, enlarge, once per long rest. Twice per long rest. That way you can do both. All right. Now I don't see where I can exactly write about the creature. You know, it's features. Oh, terribly typed though. Let me fix that. All right. Okay, yeah, I guess we're gonna have this, true form. Yeah, the creature's true form is a large tree-like fae. And we'll say knowing its true name can make it revert. Or trap it in its form. I think that's a fun little detail we'll add for the lore. So perhaps you gamble with it, you get its true name, and you get some control over it if you win the gamble. Or you make some sort of deal with it, and you manage to gain the upper hand, and maybe that's what you get out of it. Maybe you make a deal with another fae, perhaps a green hag, to get the name of the Leshy in your area, so you can gain some control over it, because it's really giving a hard time to the local populace, or something like that. This could be a really fun creature to put into one of your games. But let's continue to peruse and see if we've got everything. Large tree-like form, polymorph into, oh yeah, we'll go ahead and write that. Polymorph into, they take the form of any fae or any creature Leshy has encountered. Perfect. Perfect. This is looking pretty good so far, I think. This is a pretty mean looking fight. I don't think we need any legendary actions, although, you know, I mean, what would it do as a legendary action? Make another attack, resist a save. So sure, we can give it a legendary resistance once per long rest. Now, I'm sure you all know what I mean by once before a long rest. It means exactly how it's worded, that you can, at the end of a long rest, you get it replenished and you can use it once. You have to rest again to be able to get it back. I'm not going to type all that. You all know what I mean. Okay, yeah, I think that's good. Legendary actions per round. Per round? Jeez, one. What else might it be able to do? Make an extra action. But we'll only give them these two, and you don't have to use them. You know, we've got a Leshy and a legendary Leshy if you want to throw these things in there, slightly beef up your Leshies later on. But let's take a look through this stat block. I think this is looking pretty good. And I think we've got most everything. Oh no, features. We're going to add to the features that. Right. They have a territory. And I can spell. Goodness. Terrorory? Come on now. So, a Leshy has a territory. They have powers in their land, in their area of forest in which they live. If they leave, they lose powers. Pardon me. Alright, if they leave this area, they lose. Goodness. What was that list of powers that we said they lost? We said they lose. Yeah. I'll just copy and paste. Including all right, there we go. Got the territoriality put on the sheet. We've got summon woodland beings, communicate with animals, reduce, enlarge, and mimic. Immunity to charm, sleep, fear, and exhaustion. Resistant to bludgeon, piercing. Advantage on intelligence and charisma saves. Goodness. There we go. All right. How does that look? Is that right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, come back over here. All right. So that's... Let's stop that. Fade. It's called Fade Resistance. Advantage on intelligence and charisma saving throws. Perfect. I think that's good. That looks very nice. Alright, so then we've got the 10-foot reach. We put that in their abilities. We got the area effect with 20-foot reach, damage and grapple, 40-foot movement. We listed that it has territory, that it has those powers within, outside of which it loses many of those powers. Alright, let's go ahead and scan over the Lesher. So what we have is a large fey creature that with an AC of 15 up to, well, an average of 52 hit points, a movement speed of 40, with deception, nature, perception, stealth, and survival skills, with immunity to charm, exhaustion, frightened, and unconsciousness, resistant to bludgeoning, piercing, stabbing, or bludgeoning, piercing, slashing, and poison. Vulnerable to fire. Languages I think we should change. Common and Sylvan, right? Where are the languages? Oh yeah. Come on now. Sylvan. There we go. It can speak with animals at will. It can summon woodland creatures once before it needs a long rest. It can polymorph, the same, but it only can take the form of creatures that it's encountered. It can mimic at will, the same. Same mimic creatures it has encountered. May mimic creatures it has encountered. Did all that spell right? Mimi. It can mimi them. Sure. That's fine too. But it'd be better if it just would mimic them. Or mimic them. Alright, cool. Reduce and enlarge. It can use it twice per long rest. It has a true form that is a large tree-like fae. Knowing its true name can make it revert or trap it in its form. It has a territory in which it has its powers, outside of which it loses them. It has Fey resistance, so it gains advantage on intelligence and charisma saving throws. It has a slam with a +7 to hit, with an average of 13 damage at 2d6 + 7. It also has a stab that does the same damage, but it is piercing as opposed to bludgeoning. Which I need to go ahead and fix that too. It can also do an area effect of stabbing roots, which it can attack up to 4 creatures within 20-foot radius for 2d8 + 3, and it can force a grapple check on each one of them. There we go. Bludgeoning. That's better. It has a legendary action. It can take 1 per round. It only has 2 though, because it can use each one once before it needs a long rest. It has a legendary resistance, in which it can just pass a saving throw that it failed, and it can take an extra action. And that'll just be once per combat. We could change that as a GM. You could change that later on. But I think that's pretty good for its hit dice and the kind of challenge I think you want this to be. So, this is a creature that can control all of the potential creatures in its area, have a lot of allies. It can definitely choose and to some degree prepare the battlefield with its allies, and choosing a spot that's maybe hard for the allies or the party to traverse and get through and fight through. Maybe difficult terrain, maybe thorns, maybe other carnivorous plants. Then likely wolves, other seeing eyes, and things like this that allow the Leshy to prepare. It can trick them in various ways because it can polymorph, it can mimic sounds, it can be very large and very, very small. These are also potentially dangerous in combat. If it's come across some really dangerous and magical foe, it can polymorph and get some of those abilities. It can make the party think that it's something else entirely. And this is something that definitely a whole adventure or a couple of adventures might center around some mystery with the Leshy. While they are animalistic intelligence, high animal, they can still speak. They still have a language. They can still understand. They still have motivations. They're still aware of other fae. They have maybe not good memories, maybe not memories like we think of it. Maybe they're more ancestral memories, such like that. Maybe they have the memory of the forest and the trees around them. But they're certainly a much harsher foe in their environment. And I think this is a really cool stat block here. So thanks for joining me. Homebrewing our Lesher. If you have any thoughts on this, you think I missed out on something, let me know, and we'll go ahead and talk about it, and maybe we'll change it in the stat block. For now, I'm going to export this, if I can, to somewhere. Alright, well, pause as I figure this out. File print, save as PDF. Alright, let's see if I can do it that way. Just open it with Paint real quick. Oh gosh, don't do that. Not that you all can see what I'm doing, but I am. I'm opening Paint. Oh my goodness. Can we do it? Not exactly what I had in mind. I want to scroll through the whole thing. To export, file, print, save as PDF. I would, but you're not really giving me them options. Okay. So here's what we're gonna have to do. It's not, I don't know how to work this through OBS. So, see if we can just copy and paste it over into Word real quick. Oh, sweet. Alright, that's pretty good. Not ideal, but I will have a link to this stat block to share with you all. Hopefully it'll look as pretty as it does on the RPG workshop. But I'm having trouble getting it to let me in. So, again, thanks for joining me. I hope you all enjoyed this. I hope you got something out of it. Again, if you have any questions about my thoughts on stuff, because I didn't really share my thoughts, I just sort of showed you my process a little bit. But hopefully it at least gave you some ideas. And maybe you'll use this, maybe you won't. But have fun homebrewing. It's the core of the game. Thanks again for joining me. I'll see you all very, very soon. And take good care of yourselves and each other. Bye-bye.